Okay, so think about this. What does it really mean to, like, create life, to bring something into the world, and then just instantly pull back from it?
Yeah, it's a huge question, and that's exactly what we're diving into today, looking at Mary Shelley's incredible novel, Frankenstein, or the full title, The Modern Prometheus. We're going right back to the original word.
Right, straight to the source.
Yeah.
So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to dig into those key story points. What makes the characters tick, especially early on.
Exactly, and pull out some of those maybe surprising bits that are right there in the text from the very start. Even if you think you know Frankenstein, you might find some layers you hadn't really considered before.
Totally. All right, let's get into it.
Yep.
So interestingly, the story doesn't kick off with, the famous lab scene. It starts way up north in the Arctic, ice, ambition.
Mm-hmm.
We meet Robert Walton first.
Mm-hmm. Walton. He's our way into the story, writing these letters. And he's got this, well, fervent belief that the North Pole is some kind of magical place, a region of beauty and delight, eternal light, scientific secrets waiting.
It sounds almost mystical, doesn't
It
it?
really does. And that sets a crucial tone, right? This isn't just exploring. It's this romantic, maybe slightly obsessive pursuit of knowledge, which, mirrors Victor Frankenstein's own drive perfectly.
And he's lonely, too. Like, really lonely. Even though he has a whole crew, he talks about this deep need for a friend, someone to share his steady purpose with.
Yeah, that longing for connection is palpable. It's quite poignant, actually. And it's major foreshadowing, isn't it? This theme of isolation that just permeates the whole novel.
Absolutely. It shows right away that Shelley's interested in that human need for companionship, even when someone's chasing these grand, almost superhuman goals.
Mm-hmm. And there's that hint of hubris, too, even in Walton. His ambition, noble as it sounds, it's got the same sort of danger lurking beneath it.
Okay, so things get weird pretty quickly for Walton. July 31st, the ship's almost stuck in the ice. And then they see, well, it's bizarre, a sledge, dogs, and this huge, like, human-shaped figure driving it.
Gigantic, yeah. And then poof, it vanishes.
Gone. But then, like, an hour or two later, another sledge appears. And this time, there's a man on it, but he's barely alive. A wretch, the text calls him.
Victor Frankenstein himself, emaciated, sick, near death. And the first thing he asks when they rescue him, it's not help me or where am I?
No, it's, before I come on board your vessel, will you have the kindness to inform me whither you are bound? Which is, wow. Talk about single-minded.
Even half dead, his own quest is all that matters. And Walton, still caught up in his quest, says they're headed for the North Pole on a voyage of discovery.
You can just feel this immediate connection, right? Yeah. Two incredibly driven guys, totally isolated, meeting at the edge of the world.
Exactly. And Walton notes that Victor, despite being broken, has these conciliating and gentle manners. He wins people over. It's a really important first look at him. Shows he's not just some mad scientist caricature. He's complex.
Right. Before we hear the horrifying story, it sets up this framework. Ambition, loneliness, meeting on the ice.
Okay, so this brings us to Victor's backstory, which starts surprisingly normal, almost perfect even.
Yeah, quite the contrast. He talks about this wonderful childhood in Gina, though he was actually born in Naples. Loving parents, despite an age gap, just showering him with affection. Inexhaustible stores of affection, he says.
Sounds idyllic.
It does. But there's a key detail even then. When he's 5, his parents adopt Elizabeth Lavenza, beautiful girl, and Victor immediately sees her as his promised gift.
Mine to protect, love, and cherish. That sounds a bit possessive even then.
It definitely has that undercurrent, doesn't it? Like this early sense of ownership, framed as love, but maybe hinting at that later desire to control, even control life itself. Interesting. And then there's his best friend, Henry Clerval. Elizabeth is more than sister. Clerval is this loyal, noble, adventurous friend. So he's got love, friendship, positive influences all around.
You'd think so. But Victor's mind is already going down a different path. Even as a kid, he has this intense curiosity, wanting to learn the hidden laws of nature, the secrets of heaven and earth.
And he's not initially into, like, regular science.
No, not at first. He gets obsessed with these old alchemists, Cornelius Agrippa, Paracelsus, guys looking for, well, mystical secrets, really, not the modern science of the time.
Okay, so he's drawn to the mystical, the hidden, but then something big happens, a thunderstorm.
A massive one. He describes watching from their house as lightning just obliterates this beautiful old oak tree, a stream of fire, he calls it.
Wow.
And seeing that raw power, that destruction, it completely shifts his focus. Strangely, he says. He drops the alchemy, calls it tormenting studies
Yeah.
and turns to mathematics and, more conventional science, he actually starts associating the alchemy with evil and the new stuff with happiness.
So it's like nature itself slapped him on the wrist for looking into the old magic. But he kind of misreads the lesson.
That's a great way to put it. He turns away from one potentially dangerous path only to, well, stumble onto an even more dangerous one, thinking it's safer because it looks like rational science.
Right. Which leads him to university in Ingolstadt. And he feels totally unfitted for the company of strangers. Still showing that isolation thing.
Definitely. And there he meets two professors. Krempe, who's just dismissive, laughs off his alchemy reading list.
Yeah, kind of rough.
But then there's Waldman, kind, inspiring. He talks about modern chemists, how they can command the thunders of heaven, mimic the earthquake, and even mock the invisible world.
Okay, that sounds pretty powerful. Almost like magic, but through science.
Exactly. And that's the spark. Waldman's words just ignite Victor's ambition. Suddenly it's one thought, one conception, one purpose.
And that purpose is?
The pursuit of life itself, natural philosophy, chemistry, physiology, that becomes everything. He asks this monumental question: whence did the principle of life proceed?
That's a big question.
Huge. And to answer it, he decides he has to study death. He needs to understand decay, corruption. So he throws himself into anatomy, spends time in charnel houses. It's pretty grim stuff.
Erg. Okay, so he's deep into the morbid side of things.
He sees it as necessary. It leads him to his discovery, the secret, as he calls it, the power to bestow animation upon lifeless matter, to basically reverse death.
Playing God, essentially.
That's the classic interpretation, yeah. He believes he's found the ultimate secret, and he worked on it for 2 years straight. Becomes a wreck, thin, jumpy, avoiding everyone, isolating himself completely.
Building up to the big moment.
The creation and the description Shelley gives, it's unforgettable. Not the Hollywood monster, His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black, his teeth of a pearly whiteness.
Sounds okay so far.
But these luxuriancies only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, his shriveled complexion and straight black lips.
Oh, right. So not exactly beautiful.
Not at all. And Victor's reaction is instant. The beauty of the dream vanished. He's filled with disgust, horror. He just runs, abandons it immediately.
Wow. Just creates life in bolts.
Pretty much. Then he has this awful nightmare dreams he's holding Elizabeth. But she turns into his dead mother's corpse in his arms. He wakes up and the creature is there, standing over his bed, pulling back the curtain.
Oh, God.
Its eyes are fixed on him, jaws opened, and he muttered some inarticulate sounds while a grin wrinkled his cheeks.
Terrifying. So Victor runs again.
Yeah, out into the courtyard, spends the night there in terror. That immediate rejection by the creator, it's everything, isn't it? It defines the creature's entire existence from moment one.
So what happens to the creature now? Abandoned, hideous, according to his creator.
Yeah.
How does he even survive?
Well, it's rough. He's immediately hit with basic needs: hunger, thirst, cold. He figures out fire by accident, which is a huge step. But his first real interaction with humans? Disaster.
What happened?
He wanders into a village, probably just looking for shelter or food, and people scream, throw stones, chase him out. It just confirms his otherness, mirrors Victor's rejection instantly.
Poor thing. So he's alone and rejected by everyone he meets.
Yeah. He ends up finding refuge in this little rundown shed, a hovel attached to a cottage. And this is where things get really interesting. He starts watching the family inside.
The DeLacy's?
That's them. The blind old father, DeLacy, and his son Felix and daughter Agatha. He watches them with, extreme wonder, sees them using candles, talking, interacting.
He's learning just by observing.
Totally. He sees their routines, their affection for each other, even their sadness, their poor, and he starts feeling empathy.
Really? How so?
Well, he realizes they're often hungry, so he stops stealing bits of their food. He even starts secretly gathering firewood for them at night, leaving it by their door. Acts of kindness, even though they have no idea he exists.
Wow. So there's goodness in him, an innate kindness.
Absolutely, which makes what happens later even more tragic. He sees them communicating with articulate sounds language, and he desperately wants to learn that godlike science.
And he gets his chance, right, with Saifi.
Yeah, Safi arrives, this Arabian woman Felix is in love with. Felix starts teaching her French using this book, Volney's Ruins of Empires, and the creature listens in from his hovel.
So he learns language, history, everything, just by eavesdropping.
And he picks it up incredibly fast, even faster than Safi. He learns about society, governments, religion, good, evil. the whole spectrum of human experience.
It must have been overwhelming.
Totally. And deeply confusing. He starts asking himself these profound questions. Was I then a monster, a blot upon the earth? He understands human connection now, family, love.
But he has none of it.
Exactly. Where were my friends and relations? No father had watched my infant days. No mother had blessed me. It's heartbreaking. His knowledge just deepens his loneliness, his sense of being utterly unique and utterly alone.
Which leads him to try and make contact, doesn't it?
Mhm.
He hatches a plan.
A very careful plan. He decides to approach the old man, de Lacy, when he's alone. Because de Lacy is blind, right? He can't judge the creature by his appearance. He hopes his voice, though harsh, won't terrify him.
Smart. Risky, but smart.
He goes in, speaks to de Lacy, describes himself as this unfortunate and deserted creature just looking for kindness. And de Lacy's actually receptive, kind.
It's working.
For a moment, yes. But then Felix, Agatha, and Safi burst in. They see him. Felix attacks him. The women scream and faint or flee. It's chaos.
Oh, no. Just when he thought.
Exactly. The rejection is violent, absolute. It shatters that last bit of hope he had for finding acceptance through reason or kindness.
That must have been the breaking point.
Completely.
Yeah.
He hides back in his hovel, full of rage and despair. The next day, he discovers the de Lacys have moved out, abandoned the cottage entirely because they were so terrified.
Well, so they're gone.
Gone. And that finality, that complete rejection, just fuels this turn towards revenge. He feels totally betrayed by humanity. He sets off towards Geneva, towards his creator, with the spirit of revenge enkindled in my heart.
Traveling by night, avoiding people.
Yeah. Although there's this one moment, this brief flicker where he feels some peace in nature in the spring, but then he tries to save a drowning girl, and her father, or some rustic man, sees him, assumes the worst, snatches the girl away and shoots him.
Shoots him. Just for trying to help.
Yeah. Another brutal lesson. Good intentions mean nothing when you look like a monster. It just hardens him further.
Okay, so his heart is pretty much set on vengeance by now.
Totally. And this leads him near Geneva, where he runs into a little boy, Victor's younger brother, William.
Oh, this is terrible.
It is. But the boy screams, is terrified, and then reveals who his father is, M. Frankenstein. And hearing that name, the creature decides to make Victor suffer directly. He murders William.
Just like that. A direct strike against Victor.
And then he does something even more calculated. He finds a miniature portrait of Elizabeth that William had, and he plants it on Justine Moritz, a young woman who lives with the Frankensteins, basically framing her for the murder.
Why? Why Justine?
Pure malice, really. To work mischief, as he puts it. To make an innocent human atone for the rejection he suffered. He wants to spread the misery, make Victor feel the injustice.
Yes, it works. Justine is accused, tried.
Condemned, even though Elizabeth passionately defends her. Victor knows the truth, knows his creature did it, but he's paralyzed. He can't reveal his secret without exposing himself. He's trapped, just gnashing his teeth in guilt and horror while an innocent woman dies.
God, that's dark. So the monster isn't just lashing out anymore. He's capable of cold, calculated cruelty.
Precisely. He's become the agent of vengeance Victor inadvertently created, which sets the stage for their next confrontation. Victor, utterly tormented, seeks solitude in the Alps, and the monster finds him there.
And the monster tells him everything. His whole story.
Yes. From his awakening, the rejection, the de Lacys, William. He lays it all bare, and then he makes his demand.
The famous demand.
A female companion. Someone as hideous as myself, he says. He argues that his evil comes from loneliness. Give him a mate, someone to share his existence with, and they'll disappear together, leave humanity alone, live in the wilds of South America. His evil passions will have fled.
It's a compelling argument in a twisted way. Does Victor buy it?
He struggles with it. Huge internal debate. But eventually, yeah, he agrees. Partly out of guilt, maybe a sense of justice, maybe just desperation to end the cycle of violence.
So he agrees to make another creature.
Yes. Which leads him to travel to England, supposedly for scientific study, with Clerval tagging along. Clerval's loving life, enjoying the journey, but Victor is just consumed by gloom and dread.
He has to separate from Clerval to do the work.
Right. He finds this incredibly remote, desolate island in Scotland, sets up a lab in a miserable little hut, and starts the filthy process again. But this time he's filled with cold blood and loathing.
He's having second thoughts. Serious second thoughts.
Big time. He starts thinking, What if this female creature is worse? What if she refuses the monster? What if they do get together and have children? A whole race of devils unleashed on the world.
The potential consequences are terrifying.
They paralyze him, and just as he's agonizing over this, he looks up and sees the monster outside the window, grinning at him.
Oh, creepy.
In that instant, Victor makes his choice. He tears the half-finished female creature to pieces right in front of the monster.
Wow. That's decisive. And the monster's reaction.
Sheer fury, a howl of devilish despair and revenge, and then he delivers that iconic, chilling line, "I will be with you on your wedding night."
Ugh, the dread. He seals his fate and Elizabeth's fate right there.
Absolutely, and the horror just keeps coming. Vicar disposes of the female creature's remains, gets caught in a storm, lands in Ireland, and is immediately arrested.
And arrested. For what?
For murder. Whose murder? Henry Clerval, his best friend. The monster struck again, framing Victor indirectly. Victor sees Clerval's body and just breaks. Complete breakdown, illness, raving that he killed William, Justine, and Clerval.
He's taking on the guilt, even though he didn't physically do it.
It's all his fault, in his mind. He eventually recovers enough to be cleared and returned to Geneva. The wedding to Elizabeth is still planned, but that threat hangs over everything.
I will be with you on your wedding night. How does Victor interpret that?
Tragically, he thinks the monster means him. He thinks the monster is coming to kill him on his wedding night. He prepares to fight, arms himself. But he doesn't think about protecting Elizabeth.
Oh, no. That's a fatal mistake.
It is. The wedding happens. They go to their secluded honeymoon spot. Victor is patrolling, listening for the monster, and then he hears Elizabeth scream.
He's too late.
He finds her murdered, exactly as the monster promised. The ultimate revenge. Victor is devastated. And then, shortly after, his father, already weakened, dies of grief. Victor has lost literally everyone.
Nothing left but revenge.
Exactly. His sole purpose becomes hunting the monster down. It's this epic, desperate chase across continents, through Europe, Russia, the Arctic.
And the monster kind of leads him on.
Bizarrely, yes. He leaves clues, taunts, sometimes even food. It's suggested the monster wants Victor to keep following, needs his creator's suffering to continue. He fears Victor might despair and die if he loses the trail entirely. It's this twisted, obsessive relationship right to the very end.
Which brings us back to the Arctic, back to Walton's ship.
Full circle. Victor, near death, finds Walton's ship. He tells Walton his whole unbelievable story, partly as a confession, partly as a warning against unchecked ambition.
And then Victor dies.
The body just gives out. The hunt is over for him, but not quite the end of the story.
Monster appears.
Yes.
Yeah.
Walton finds the monster in the cabin, mourning over Victor's body, which is complex. He laments Victor's death, but also his own existence, his bitter and loathing despair.
He has this final, incredibly sad speech, doesn't he?
Powerful stuff. No guilt, no mischief, no misery can be found comparable to mine. He compares himself to the fallen angel Satan, but says even Satan had companions. I am alone. He feels he suffered more than anyone, and perhaps he has.
And he says he's going to die.
Yeah, he declares his intention to build a funeral pyre for himself at the northernmost point of the globe and die by fire, finally ending his suffering. Then he leaps from the window onto the ice, disappears into the darkness and distance.
Leaving Walton. Where?
Still stuck in the ice, his crew is threatening mutiny, they want to go home. Walton feels inspired by Victor's story, by the grandeur of the quest, but he caves. He agrees to turn the ship around.
So his ambition is ultimately defeated, too.
Yeah. He sails back to England, feeling like a failure. Ignorant and disappointed, he writes, his hopes blasted by cowardice and indecision. It's a final echo of Victor's own failed ambition.
Wow. What an incredible bleak journey we've just traced. From that initial spark of ambition in both Walton and Victor, through the creation, the terrible rejection, the cycle of revenge, ending in just ice and despair.
Yeah. It really shows how Shelley builds the tragedy layer by layer, right from those opening letters. It's so much deeper than just, a monster movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really makes you think, going back to the text like this, who is ultimately responsible for all this tragedy? Is it all on Victor? Or does the creature, shaped by that constant rejection, bear the weight too?
That's the enduring question, isn't it? There's no easy answer. Victor's irresponsibility is huge, but the creature's choices, especially later on, it gets very murky.
Definitely something to chew on. We really hope this deep dive into the beginning, the core narrative, gives you a fresh perspective on where this iconic story actually comes from. It's powerful stuff.